Imagine I see a car with a license plate that says ARW357, and I think to myself, wow, what are the odds? Out of millions and millions of license plates in this state, I just saw that particular one. Chuckles. But that's ridiculous, isn't it? Because I had to see some license plate. The odds of seeing any particular license plate are exactly the same. We fool ourselves all the time by working backwards this way. Now, some people look at the universe and they say, my God, look how vast it is, a 100 red billion galaxies each with a 100 red billion stars probably, and look at all these planets that could have life, and they conclude, therefore, there must be advanced civilizations out there. But that's not quite how science works. Curious. You have to be careful about what you actually know and what you're just guessing about. So let me walk through this the right way. The first question is, does life exist elsewhere in the universe? Now, I think the answer is probably yes. Why? Because of a very simple observation. On Earth, life emerged pretty quickly after our planet became habitable. The chemistry worked out. There's nothing particularly magical about Earth. We have water, we have organic molecules, we have energy from the sun. These things exist throughout the cosmos. So, statistically, if life could start here, it probably started in many, many places. But here's where we have to be very careful, because the second question is completely different. Does intelligent life exist? And even more important, does technological intelligent life exist? These are not the same question at all. You see, evolution is not a ladder. It's a process that solves problems. On Earth, it took 3.5 billion years for life to go from simple bacteria to humans. And here's the thing, most of that time, nothing was happening. For most of Earth's history, life was just single cells. Then multicellular life came along relatively recently, maybe 600 million years ago. Then we got fish, then amphibians, then reptiles, then mammals. And only in the last few million years did we get anything like what we call intelligence. And intelligence itself took a long, long time to develop. You had apes, and then pre-humans, and then humans. And humans have been around for maybe 200,000 years. We've been doing anything sophisticated for only about 10,000 years. And technological civilization, we've had that for maybe 300 years. 300 years out of 3.5 billion. That's an incredibly small fraction. So even if life is common, intelligent life might be rare, and technological intelligent life might be very rare indeed. Now, someone always asks me at this point, but what if aliens are 1 billion years ahead of us? And that's the question I really want to dig into, because there's something very misleading about the way people think about this. When you say something is 1 billion years ahead, what do you mean? Do you mean they started their evolution 1 billion years ago? That's possible. Our galaxy is about 13 billion years old. Our sun and Earth are only about 4.5 billion years old. So yes, somewhere else in the galaxy, life might have started 5 or 6 billion years ago. But here's the problem. If they evolved intelligence at the same rate we did, and we have no reason to think they'd evolve faster, then they'd be intelligent only in the last few million years. So even a 5 billion year old star system might only have had intelligent life for the last million years or so. But let's say they're 1 billion years ahead in technology. Let's say they solved all the problems of space travel. They figured out how to build ships that can cross the vast distances between stars. They figured out how to keep beings alive for journeys that take hundreds of years. They figured out how to harness energy on scales we can barely imagine. Here's my question. Why would they visit us? This is the part that bothers me when people get excited about UFOs and say, oh, they must be advanced aliens. But think about this practically. If an alien civilization is advanced enough to travel between stars, why would they be interested in us? We're not advanced. We're not even interesting from a scientific perspective. We just started with electricity 3 centuries ago. We just split the atom. We just landed on the moon. These are trivial achievements to someone who can cross the galaxy. If I'm a scientist and I want to study primitive life forms, do I have to travel to the place where they live and risk being seen? Of course not. I could observe from far away. I could send a probe. I could listen to their radio signals. In fact, if they're 1 billion years ahead of us, they probably have technology so advanced we couldn't even recognize it as technology. We'd think it was a natural phenomenon. We might be surrounded by their probes and not even know it. But the funny thing is, nobody can explain why they would visit. The planet has bacteria, some plants, some animals, and us. The bacteria are already here on every corner of the Earth. Why travel across the galaxy to pick up bacteria when you could send a robot? Now, I'm going to tell you something else that's important. Let's think about what happens to a civilization that lasts 1 billion years. Think about that. 1 billion years. The Earth has only existed for 4.5 billion years. The universe only for 13.8 billion years. 1 billion years is a very long time. On such timescales, civilizations face serious problems. The first problem is survival. Any civilization that advances technologically faces a danger that not many people think about carefully enough. As you advance, your power to destroy yourselves increases. We have this right now with nuclear weapons. We can destroy our entire civilization in an afternoon if we're not careful. An alien civilization, if they're much more advanced, has even more destructive power available to them. They have to solve the problem of how to not use that power to kill themselves. The second problem is that as a civilization becomes more advanced, it tends to become more spread out. They colonize other planets. They go to other star systems. This means they're no longer one unified civilization. They're separate populations. And what happens when you have separate populations? Exactly what happened on Earth. You get competition, you get conflict, you get different groups with different interests. The third problem is that a civilization lasting 1 billion years has to solve the problem of stagnation. Do they keep advancing or do they reach some limit? Here's a question. Could there be a universal limit to how advanced a civilization can become? My colleague Carl Shawn and I used to talk about this. We didn't have answers, but the question itself is fascinating. Think about it this way. Every civilization, no matter how advanced, operates under the laws of physics. And the laws of physics place limits on what's possible. You can't travel faster than light. You can't extract more energy from a system than the total energy available in that system. You can't engineer your way around the laws of thermodynamics. So maybe there's some point at which civilizations stop getting more advanced because they're bumping up against these fundamental limits. Now, if you take all this together, if you think about how hard it is for intelligent life to develop and how hard it is for a civilization to survive for 1 billion years and how hard it is for a civilization to spread across the galaxy, then you're led to an interesting conclusion. Maybe we are the only technological civilization in our galaxy right now. Maybe we're the only one for thousands of light years in every direction. And that doesn't make us special, it just makes us rare. You see, there's something about the human mind that wants to either feel insignificant or feel special. Some people see the vastness of the universe and they feel small. Other people see the silence, no alien visitors, no radio signals, and they think maybe we're alone and that makes us special. But this is all just psychology. The universe doesn't care about our feelings about it. The real question is, what does the evidence tell us? And the evidence tells us that we haven't found any other intelligent life. Not a radio signal, not a spaceship, not a message, nothing. And we've been looking for signal from outer space systematically for only about 60 years. We've been broadcasting our presence for about 100 years. This is nothing. This is like waking up for 1 minute out of a century-long sleep and wondering why nobody's knocked on your door yet. But here's the thing that I think is really important. Let me say it clearly. The question of whether advanced aliens exist is genuinely uncertain. We don't know. And I think it's important to be honest about what we don't know. But at the same time, I think many of the claims people make about aliens are not based in careful scientific thinking. When someone says, I saw a UFO, I don't immediately jump to aliens. I think about Venus. Venus is the brightest object in the sky at certain times, and it moves across the sky as the Earth rotates. People often see Venus and think it's a spacecraft. I think about airplanes. I think about weather balloons. I think about optical illusions that the atmosphere can create. The question is not, is it impossible that aliens are visiting us? The question is, given what we know about the universe and given the evidence we have, what's the most likely explanation? And the most likely explanation for most UFO sightings is not alien spacecraft. Here's an analogy that might help. Suppose you're in a grocery store and you hear a strange noise from the back. You don't immediately assume there's a ghost in the freezer section. You think, oh, probably someone dropped something, maybe a loose panel, maybe a refrigerator is making a funny sound. These are much more likely explanations based on what you know about grocery stores in the world. Similarly, when we see something unexplained in the sky, we shouldn't immediately jump to the universe being full of visitors. We should think about the boring explanations first, but none of this means I think advanced civilizations don't exist. I think they probably do exist. I think there's probably some civilization out there somewhere in this vast universe that's 1 billion years ahead of us technologically. I just don't think they're visiting us, and I don't think we can know much about them. You see, here's what's interesting about intelligence in the universe. If there's a civilization 1 billion years ahead of us, they would be so far beyond us that we probably couldn't even understand them. Imagine trying to explain electricity to a bacterium. You can't do it because the bacterium doesn't have the concepts. It doesn't have sensory organs that can detect electricity directly. It doesn't have a nervous system that can process that information. Similarly, a civilization 1 billion years ahead might have solved problems that we don't even recognize as problems. They might have technology that's so far beyond ours that we would confuse it with magic or nature or nothing because we wouldn't be able to see it at all. I once gave a lecture at Cornell about how you would communicate with an alien. And I asked, how would you teach a Martian about left and right? It's a simple question, but the answer involves some very deep physics. You can't just show them which is left and which is right because you're separated by space. You have to describe it using mathematics or physics that you both understand. And here's the thing I realized while thinking about that problem. We have no way of knowing if an alien civilization, even if we could communicate with them, would care about the same things we care about. We assume that advanced beings would be interested in science. But maybe they're interested in art, maybe they're interested in music. Maybe they've solved all the science problems and now they only care about aesthetic things. How would we know? The history of Earth is full of encounters between civilizations at different technological levels, and they never go well for the less advanced civilization, the conquistadors and the Aztecs, the Europeans and the Native Americans. But even in those cases, the technological difference was small compared to what the difference would be between us and a civilization a billion years ahead. And here's another thing, a civilization that lasts a billion years would probably be very different from us, not just technologically, but culturally. They would have different values, different goals, different ways of thinking. Imagine what Earth will be like a million years from now. It's already hard to imagine. Now imagine a billion years. The human beings of that time would be unrecognizable to us. They would think in ways we can't even conceive of. They would care about things that we've never thought about. So if there are advanced aliens out there, they're probably not thinking about us at all. They're thinking about problems we don't even know exist. Now, this brings me back to the original question. Aliens are 1 billion years ahead. What does that mean? I think what it means is this. It means that the universe is probably full of interesting physics and interesting civilizations, but we are probably alone right now in our corner of space. It means that trying to imagine what they're like is actually quite hard. It means that visiting us would be boring for them, even if they could do it easily. And it means that the most rational thing we can do is not spend all our time wondering about them and watching the skies for UFOs. The most rational thing we can do is focus on understanding the universe through careful observation and experimentation. That's how we learn things. And maybe in the process of doing that, we'll stumble across evidence of other intelligent life, but we shouldn't expect it. We shouldn't count on it. Let me finish with something I've always believed. The world is full of interesting things to study right here, right now. We have the ocean. We know more about the moon than we know about the deep ocean. We have the human brain, the most complex object in the universe as far as we know, and we still understand very little about how it works. We have diseases to cure. We have energy problems to solve. We have a planet we're messing up that we need to take care of. So yes, I think advanced civilizations probably exist somewhere out there, but that doesn't change what we need to do. We need to keep learning. We need to keep asking questions. We need to keep looking at the universe with curiosity and wonder, but also with honesty about what we know and what we don't know. And if somewhere out there, a billion years from now, one of those advanced civilizations stumbles across evidence of us, I hope they'll be curious about what we became. Because the question isn't really where are they? The question is who will we be? And that's something we get to decide.